vlogging here. I wanted to share with you what not to do at Badlands. Badlands is an ultracycling event that happens in southern Spain. It starts in Granada. It is a 750 kilometer race with 16,000 meters of elevation gain. In 2022, I raced Badlands, my first ultracycling race, and wow, I learned a lot of what not to do, that is. I entered into the race really having no idea what to expect, but I saw it online and it looked cool, and I thought, well, you know, I'm getting into this long distance riding. I'm really enjoying riding my bike. I'm gonna try this race that I saw in Spain. I wanna go, I'm gonna do it. I signed up for the race and spent the next 6 to 8 months training, rode my bike as much as I could, but I was woefully unprepared for what I was going to be undertaking. I learned a lot of things, and I wanted to share those with you alongside some tips from friends that have raced it, that have won the race in previous years, and just a general idea of things you can learn for the event this year if you're going to race it or in the future. Let's dive right in. There is so much climbing in Badlands. Your knees will literally cry if you bring a 46 tooth front chainring on a 1x, or you have road gearing or cyclocross gearing. You are not going to have a 1-to-1 ratio for climbing, and you need at least a 1-to-1. And I'm going to tell you, when I raced Badlands last year, I used a 38 front chainring with a 10 to 52 cassette on my Eagle axis. Yeah, that sounds like a little bit of overkill, but I promise you, I loved every second of having those easy gears. So do yourself a favor, do your knees a favor, and do not use your cyclocross setup for Badlands. When it comes to tires, do not show up to Badlands with used tires. The rocks out there are sharp, and you're riding 450 miles or 750 kilometers, and those are gonna wear your tires out. I mean, you're gonna be probably needing new tires almost after the end of the event. So it's better to start with newer tires, but not brand new. Do not mount new tires on the day before. Don't use anything new in terms of bags. When you start, you want to have tested everything on the bike, but your bags are all very particular to you, how they fit on your bike and how they work with your body. For me, certain bags give me rub in my inner thighs. And if I was to start a race with a new bag and didn't know that that was the case, I would be so frustrated. Make sure you test the bags out. Make sure you know exactly where everything is in the bags, but don't use new bags on race day. Don't try anything new on your bike on race day. End of story. Maybe you try a new flavor of gel, sure. But anything other than that, don't try new, because your body takes a while to get used to things. It takes a while to get used to gels and certain foods and tire pressure and all these things. Like, don't put a different length stem on your bike. It takes weeks for your body to get used to a bike fit. So do not try anything new on your bike on race day. Some organizations have you bring a brevet card during events, and what it is a little stamp book that the race organizers will stamp at each checkpoint to make sure you've gone to those locations. Badlands does not have checkpoints, so they don't have a brevet card. But in terms of things that need to be kept safe, a brevet card is one, a passport is another. You want to keep these in a nice watertight Ziploc style bag. I recently did a race in Italy, and I had what I thought was a waterproof bag for my passport and my brevet card, and they got soaked. The brevet card fell apart, and my passport is never going to be the same. Do not forget to put your passport and brevet card in a waterproof bag, because it may rain. You don't want to forget sunscreen. When you are riding, yeah, you expend energy to ride, but your skin is also an organ, and it takes energy to do what it does. And if you don't have sunscreen, your skin is going to get sunburned. Now, we all obviously tan and burn at different rates, but no matter what, your skin still has to absorb those UV rays, and it can make you tired. So if you want to do well and you want to be energized, don't forget to wear sunscreen. Everyone is different in their preferences for this. For me, I cannot live without them, but don't forget to wear gloves. Your hands get destroyed when you're riding for that long. Just the sheer back and forth of the friction when you're out of the saddle. For me, I have to wear gloves. Every once in a while during a race, I will take them off, and I do like to hand wash them because they get really disgusting. and they get really hard because of the salt. So I often, any chance I get when there's soap and water, will hand wash them and then let them dry. I mean, I put them wet on my hands and it works well for me, but don't forget to wear gloves. In a race like Badlands, it's hot, 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 hot. And what you're wearing is very critical. When you are wearing black wool, you're gonna be hot. So don't wear black wool, don't wear black. White is the perfect thing to wear when it's hot outside like that. If you can find a jersey that has SPF in it, even better, or a protection barrier for your skin with that sunscreen is gonna really, really prevent you from being tired, like I mentioned earlier. When it's hot like that, don't forget to bring electrolytes and salt. Your body will lose all of that quicker than you can blink. And if you don't have replacements for it, you're gonna cramp. We all know what it's like to cramp. It sucks. So don't forget to bring electrolytes. Don't forget to bring salts. Personally, I use a drink mix that has electrolytes in it, and I also take salt tabs that have electrolytes in it. So I'm doubling up always. This one is not necessarily a suggestion from me. I personally don't use this, but don't forget to bring chamois cream. I know a lot of people are very dependent on chamois cream, and if you need it, do not forget it. I wouldn't necessarily say you have to bring it, but if you don't use chamois cream and you're a little bit worried about the time on the bike, find one of those individual things of chamois cream. It will really help if there comes a time where you really need just a little bit of friction prevention. Personally, I carry hydrocortisone cream. It's like an anti-sweller. You know, it helps in multiple ways. It can be chamois cream, but it also has a little bit of like anti-swelling, and that's really important when that area where you're usually using the chamois cream can swell from salt rubbing. So for me, don't forget hydrocortisone cream. For most people, don't forget chamois cream. To go along with that and keeping clean, needing to regulate, I did not make this mistake at Badlands, but I know a lot of people wished that they had, and that's don't forget a second pair of bibs. I always change between 12 and 24 hours every day of the races that I do. For me, keeping clean really prevents any sort of swelling and chafing. I use 2 different bibs, so the hot points are different on the chamois, and when I take off one pair of bibs, I be sure to clean, and then I find a sink and I hand wash the other pair, wrap it around my saddle, and then let it flow. So if you're doing Badlands this year, don't forget a second pair of bibs. You will thank me. Sometimes things go bad. Things in your stomach, things in your bowels, things in your esophagus, your body. It takes a hit when you do an ultra. So don't forget to bring Tums. For you Euro people, you don't know what a Tums is. It's an antacid. It's the best thing ever. It basically, if you have an upset stomach, it will help soothe your stomach. For me, Badlands 2022, I ate a bunch of nut bars because I thought, oh, I need as much protein and calories as I can get. So I packed as many calories on my bike as I could, Kind bars, and I ate them the first day, but I couldn't eat anymore. And I was feeling kind of sick, and I got to the first resupply at night, and I shoved in a bunch of food, and I chugged a Fanta. And then I got back on my bike after having waited forever for the food, because in Spain, they take their sweet time. More on that later. About 20 minutes after, maybe, I did the first climb, and within a couple minutes, I started feeling sick. And then I just projectile vomited everything I had just refueled with. I lost French fries and tasted Fanta, and I still haven't had a Fanta since that day, which is sad because I really liked Fantas. I thankfully carried Tums with me at that point. I knew that sometimes my stomach could get upset, so I carried Tums, and I took some. Now, granted, it didn't help me that much. It helped enough. It really did. It helped me get going. I think I was in a negative attitude at that point, and I really struggled for a while. I think if the same thing were to have happened now, I would have had more coping mechanisms to deal with the shittiness I was experiencing. But yeah, don't forget to bring some sort of antacid or something for your stomach, because if your stomach is upset, you can't eat. And if you can't eat, you can't ride. Don't forget to bring warm clothes. At night, it gets chilly in the desert. I carry a down jacket wool socks, knee warmers, arm warmers, a rain jacket. I have all of these things for nighttime riding because if I'm riding through the night, it gets chilly in the desert and I want to make sure I am not cold. Don't forget to bring warm clothes. Even though Badlands is going to be hot and it's in the desert, it gets cold at night. When it comes to ultra racing, especially if it is your first race, just know it's going to be hard and things are going to be tough, and you should know that going into the race and really aim to work on having a positive outlook even in the face of adversity. For me, that's huge. Something I learned at Badlands is things are going to go bad. You're going to have mountains and you're going to have valleys, and things are going to be tough. And you know what? You signed up for the race. So you can either be really unhappy when things go wrong, or you can embrace it. Resupply is a hot ticket topic at Badlands. There are not that many resupply locations, and some of them are quite remote, which is funny because like it's not really that much of a remote area because it's southern Spain. It's pretty developed, but there are definitely remote areas, and sometimes there's only one location where you can find resupply, and oftentimes that's going to be at a bar. And at the bar, they're not really going to have very many options. So keep that in mind, that when you are stopping in a town, you can look on your phone to find places, but you may only find that there are just one open bar in that area. So if you see the bar, don't skip the bar if there's no other locations on the map showing. So, and just don't skip resupply in general. If there's a resupply location, you better stop. There are not that many options, like I mentioned. And if you skip one, you may not see one for another like 80 miles or 60 miles or something. That is hours of time. So don't skip your resupply locations because they're super important. Main thing at Badlands for me that was a time suck was the resupplies. I did not do a very good job of being fast about resupply, mostly because I started trying to order food that maybe they didn't have on the like daily menu, or I thought I needed real food, so I was like waiting for real meal, like a whole meal to come out or something like that. When I learned that really, honestly, your body can function on just carbohydrates. You don't actually need real food for something like that distance. Yes, it would be wonderful to have real food, but something simple like a tomato bread sandwich, which is what you can get at most bars in Spain, is really good. If you can get avocado on there, you're golden. But other than that, ice cream, chips, candy, soda, your body can run on those things. But don't spend too much time waiting for real food, and don't spend too much time at the grocery store trying to resupply, because that stuff adds up. It's better to actually be eating while you're on the bike rather than sitting outside the grocery store or the bar. Don't pass up any water fountain that you see along the way. There is a couple where it's like there's 3 within like a 50-mile time period, and there is a grocery store. And of course, that's when I was carrying the 1-liter bottle on my back at that point. But before that, I wish I had had water so bad, so many times. Carry extra water in the sections where you may not think that there's going to be that much resupply. At night, especially if you're going somewhere, you might need to carry more water, and your pockets are good for that. You can carry a musette bag. Apidura has one that folds up really small. I know a lot of people don't carry enough water and end up regretting it, so don't skip any of the water. Don't drink beer while you're racing unless it's non-alcoholic. Okay, I lied. This one, I mean, you could have a nice light beer. If you're not racing it super hard and you want to have a beer, you should have a beer. I think that was one of the suggestions from my friend Alvin, except he said maybe don't have too many beers. So beer is actually good recovery. It's good carbs. When you're racing and you're coming to resupply, before you get there, think about what it is you need to do. Lubing your chain, plugging in your electronics, stuffing your bags with food, taking out your trash. That's another big thing. I often forget to do that. So when I am getting close to the place where there's going to be a resupply, I know that I'm coming up to it. I will open my cell phone and I will talk to text a note, which is a to-do list of things to do when I get there, so I don't forget. The worst thing is when you ride away and you're like, crap, I forgot to throw my trash out, and you have all this trash and you're like, well, I gotta wait till the next resupply, so then you get even more trash. Don't forget to make a list of the things you need to do at resupply. Depending on your method of racing, you may need to ride at night. I often ride through the night. If I'm riding all the way through the night, I need my lights to last through the night. So I actually carry multiple batteries for the headlamp on my helmet, and I carry a secondary light in my saddlebag that I can use if the light on my helmet goes bad for any reason, weather, whatever. If you're gonna ride through the night, you need to know how long your lights last. If you're gonna ride at night or do an ultra, you need to know how long your lights are gonna last. So don't forget to test your lights. You've gotta go out before the race, well before the race, and make sure you know exactly how long the lights are gonna last. And my best suggestion to you is if you have a headlight, for example, go and make sure it's in the right position, because I've definitely learned from previous mistakes that one time I had the light too high and I had to bend my head down a little bit, and by doing that I gave myself Sherman's neck, which basically means I couldn't hold my head up anymore because I was straining to use my light at night. Don't forget to test your lights before. I have seen this happen many times, and I feel for these people. But then I just think, wow, you are dumb. Do not forget to put the route of the race on your cycling computer. And also, don't forget to check that it's actually there. Yes, sometimes computers can go haywire, but double check. Turn the computer on before you get to the race start. If you're going to do the rider check-in and it's close to the race start, turn the computer on when you get there. Load the route. Make sure your computer is up to date, and make sure you can see the route works. If you don't and you show up to the race start, okay, yeah, you can follow the people at the beginning of the race for a while. But what happens when then you're by yourself? I have seen multiple times where people have had to ride close to me because they didn't have the route. Another thing is, maybe if you have an older computer, you don't think about this, but you actually do have to download the maps of the country that you're gonna be in. I've seen this happen where I was in Colombia and somebody literally, they didn't have the route. It was just a line, basically. They couldn't see anything except the line, so they had to keep making turn after turn after turn and making the wrong turn because they couldn't see where they're going because they didn't have the Colombian maps downloaded onto their computer. Now I explained this to them and I said, go to the hotel, figure out how to get your phone set up to the Wi-Fi, download the maps, then you'll be able to have the route. So download your maps, download your route, double check that it's there. I mentioned it earlier, I carry a second light in my saddlebag. I also have a tail light, so I have a front light, a tail light, and I carry a spare front light and a spare tail light because in the last race I did actually in Italy just a few weeks ago, somehow, some way, I lost my tail light on the back of my saddlebag. Now we'll carry a second tail light just in case I lose one. You never know what could happen, or maybe it goes bad or something like that. So carrying two tail lights. With ultra racing, you're riding through the night, you're riding multiple days, you have lights, you have a computer that uses GPS. You need to be able to charge the things that are important to get through the race, and to charge them, you can have a dynamo wheel if you're one of those people, but if you don't have something like that, you can use external batteries. I carry two 10,000 mAh batteries, and that will get me through, I don't know, 2 to 3 days. I have used a external battery before that only charged one time during a race, and I realized, I don't know, maybe it had gone bad, or maybe I had overcharged it a few too many times. So now I have external batteries that I check the health of. I make sure before the race they have enough charge to charge my phone 2 times at least. Don't forget a Euro plug. Last year didn't bring any plugs because I was like, well, I have the external batteries. I'm not gonna stop and charge anything. I needed those items, and I think I was at a hotel and I ended up borrowing one from the front desk person. They were very nice to let me borrow it. But yeah, don't forget a Euro plug and the cords associated with what you need to charge. Nothing could be worse than going out there and realizing, shoot, I don't have the one cord I need for this one thing. Food in an ultra race is very important, as we all know, and food works differently for different people. For me, I learned at Badlands last year, as I mentioned before, I learned that I can't have too many fats. All of the nuts that I ate on the first day last year made me really sick, and now I know I really can only eat carbohydrates. Granted, I can have avocado fat, that's fine, but I try to avoid nuts at all costs. So in my book, don't eat too many fats, because I think That definitely hindered me in my racing ability last year on the first day because it just gave me the worst upset stomach, which then resulted to even worse upset stomach and throwing up and all of the things. So yeah, don't eat too many fats. Don't forget to pack a lot of extra food. A lot of people don't realize that in Badlands especially, your first real resupply is not until almost 12 hours after the start of the race. It's best if you carry at least enough for 12 hours, but really honestly carry 16 to 18 hours of food, because if you don't have enough food, then you're SOL. I personally don't follow this rule, but don't skip the bocadillos. Apparently they're delicious. They have meat in them. I don't eat meat, so I didn't have any of these, but they were very popular. Don't skip them, but don't eat too many of them is what I've heard. So don't skip and don't eat too many bocadillos. When you're at a resupply location, do not forget to check if the water is still or sparkling. A lot of times, the sparkling water is more plenty. You'll find more bottles and bigger bottles of that. I made the mistake of buying con gas, so with gas water, pour it into your bottle and you don't realize, and then you go to drink it later and you're like, ugh, hits you in the chest. So don't forget to check whether or not you're buying still or sparkling water. Just some general things about Spain. Don't expect anything quickly. They do not like to be rushed and they take their sweet time. So saying something like rapido doesn't make a difference for them. Don't forget to pack more than you think you'll need. A lot of people go into ultra racing, myself included, especially on the first one, going light with what you've got. Yes, there are things that you don't need. No, you probably do not need a stove to race Badlands. Yes, you could have one and you could use it, but there are plenty of resupply locations where you can find food. Don't pack too light and don't pack too heavy, basically. Find the line in between and you'll succeed. That's what I've got for what not to do at Badlands. Thanks for watching. I appreciate your support. Stay tuned. I'll have some videos about the race and some other exciting things to do with Badlands after. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Adios.